The question is, should the congressman who broke into the ICE prison in New Jersey on Friday, should they be kicked out of Congress? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I say not only yes, but immediately. Immediately. If you're not familiar with this story, 3 Democrat congressmen went down to the detention facility called Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey. And they went to the gate and they demanded to be let in. Hey, we're congressmen. We have a constitutionally mandated oversight function and we demand to be let in right now. And they said, well, we can schedule you a tour if you want. And they're like, nope, we want to be let in. And they're like, well, it's not really how it works. This is kind of a prison. We have rules. And so they waited until the next bus came in and they tried to rush the gate. And some of them got in. And the mayor of Newark got himself arrested, Ras Baraka. So we have another instance here where Democrat members of Congress are rushing to a prison in order to lobby on behalf of people who aren't even U.S. citizens. Hey, at least they didn't go to El Salvador this time. At least it was one in New Jersey. I mean, that was even worse. But these are 75% of the people in this detention facility have already been convicted of a crime or have pending criminal charges. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just a bunch of criminals. You're going to advocate for non-American criminals. And what do you want? You want them to remain in America? That's your ultimate goal? If you trespassed in Delaney Hall, if you went to the nearest detention facility and snuck in through the gate, you think you'd get charges thrown at you? Do you think you might lose your job? What did it happen to these people so far? Nothing but positive. Nothing but great. You know what? They were all 3 on CNN this weekend. They were on State of the Union on Sunday, telling their story and getting attention they wouldn't have otherwise gotten had they not gone down and advocated on behalf of illegal immigrant criminals, non-American criminals. If they hadn't broken trespassing laws, if they hadn't gotten to a scrum and made a scene, CNN would have ignored. They wouldn't have been on State of the Union. So now you know why these people do it. Because you may think, well, how do they actually care about criminals from other countries? They don't. But they do see this as a situation they can exploit to get media that they couldn't buy otherwise. There's no amount of money that Congressman McIver, I know it sounds like I'm saying MacGyver, but it's McIver. There's no other way she would have gotten on State of the Union. Even if she paid, even if she said, look, I'll give you $100,000. Just let me be your guest. No, this is the kind of promotion that makes you a forever incumbent, and this was really good for their career. But also, how does this compare to the January 6ers? Because Newark Mayor Ras Baraka's excuse is that, well, look, there was an open gate and I just walked through it, and, I'm a citizen and the mayor of Newark, and when they told me to leave, I left and they arrested me anyway. Yeah, that's what happened to most January 6ers. Not all of them. Some of them actually, smeared feces or punched a cop or something. But for most of them, the ones we talked to on this show, Larry Brock up here in the North Texas, that's all he did. He walked through an open door, looked around, walked out. He got solitary. He got almost over a year in jail. And no one was concerned about his due process. No one was concerned about cruel and unusual solitary confinement. No one was concerned that he didn't get his full hearing or get his full complement of constitutional rights. No one was worried about, hey, don't you think it's a little excessive to keep a guy in solitary for almost a year just for walking through an open door and leaving on his own? No concern there. But they will have concern, not for you, the native-born American citizen who's been doing the right thing their entire life and paying their taxes, but for illegal immigrant, non-American criminals. They should all be fired immediately. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Paramount Pictures releases Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Every mission has led to this. Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, only in theaters and IMAX on May 23rd. I saw a rumor he's going to be visiting Dallas to sort of promote this, what may be the last Mission Impossible. But if you want a chance to win some passes to the advanced screening on May 21st, that's one of our contests. Text the word mission to 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. There are people calling for charges to be filed against the 2 congressmen who went through the gate. I don't think the Menendez kid did. And I call him a kid because his dad is Bob Menendez. He's Rob Menendez, which is Bob Menendez Jr., basically. But remember what happened to his dad? His dad got caught up in all kinds of corruption scandals and busted, and he had the gold bars, and it was a whole thing. So that guy seems to have just as bad judgment as his dad there. But from a PR standpoint, this is working out great because the 3 congressmen that went down there, they all got invited to be on CNN this weekend. So, hey, mission accomplished. They didn't get anyone freed. They didn't, actually help the cause on the ground, but they helped themselves by getting some great promotion. And you know what? Good for them. It worked. But it's still going on today. If you were out there right now, if you just transported yourself from the Starship Enterprise and landed in Newark outside of this facility, right now, there's reports on Fox News that there are dozens of clergy members protesting outside today at the facility in Newark. And they're trying to block the gates. And they said they would continue to block the gates accessing the facility until they are arrested. So a little more detail on this. Fox News is reporting it's about 50 clergy members from a group called Faith in New Jersey and Faith in Action. Never heard of them, but well, whatever. They've linked arms outside the main gate. I guess that's where we saw the scrum happen on Friday. And they're chanting and singing songs. They also have several speakers who also said prayers for the inmates inside the facility. That's good. And condemn their detention. That's bad. But the clergy members say they've all volunteered to be arrested and that they're going to attempt to enter the ICE facility if given the opportunity. Really? So now we got preachers breaking the law like that? And it's not like a noble breaking of the law where when you tried to go to a church during the COVID lockdowns or when you were protesting against Democrat segregation in the 60s. No, these guys are protesting and volunteering to get themselves arrested on behalf of non-American criminal illegal immigrants. Hell of a pastor you got there. And here's a quick clip from McIvers. She was on CNN yesterday, and there's no remorse. There's no contrition. Of course, they're going to say that, they were doing the right thing. And I guess they think that this is the bridge at Selma. I guess they think that this is their new civil rights crusade. The Bull Connors is going to hit them with water hoses or whatever. No, that's not going to happen. You guys aren't the next civil rights movement. You're actually lobbying on behalf of criminal non-Americans. But here she was yesterday on CNN.
Congresswoman McIver, I want to go back to some of the footage.
Doesn't it sound like she's saying MacGyver, like the TV show? Like she's about to fix something with paperclip and duct tape? I don't know. It cracks me up every time I hear it.
Congresswoman McIver, I want to go back to some of the footage. We were looking at some, and I want our viewers to see that you are the woman in the red blazer as we show them. The DHS says that obviously that there were chaos, that maybe you were trespassing. You can talk about that. But the DHS also says that, in their words, you were body slamming an ICE officer. Is that what we're looking at? Is that what happened?
Absolutely no. I mean, I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone. We, as Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman said, we were simply there to do our job, therefore oversight visit. And what you're watching in a video, and we don't have all of the body cam, and we hope that all of the body cam is released. It was a very tense situation. It unfortunately did not have to be like that. They created that confrontation. They created that chaos, and then ultimately went to arrest the mayor of the largest city of New Jersey, who is my mayor and my constituent. And it was very difficult to watch that happen. But absolutely, I did not body slam anyone.
Pravda wouldn't have done it better. That was such absolute trash of a setup. What they did is they took the entirety of the storyline and they found the one time where one guy from DHS misspoke. No, it wasn't a body slam, but she was body checking people. When you tuck your elbow into your ribs and then bump into someone with your shoulder. Oh, yeah. She was doing that over and over. So she didn't body slam anyone. No one thought that he really meant body slam. No one thinks a 70-something, or is she the 80-year-old? No, the Bonnie's the 80-year-old. So an elderly congresswoman can pick a human being up over her head like John Cena and just bam, oh, yeah, that's what she was doing. No one thinks that. But she was physically trying to nudge her way through the ICE people, and it's on video camera. Go to jail, or whatever the punishment is for misdemeanor trespassing. Get cuffs on you, go to court. Maybe the guy sentenced you to jail. You probably get deferred adjudication or parole or probation, or I don't know, because I never get arrested. But Criminal charges, just like if you would walk through there, the same thing should happen to them. And on top of that, kick them right out of Congress. You can't just break into detention facilities in violation of the other federal agents that are standing in front of you, telling you, hey, we'll put you on a tour here, but we've got to set this up. We don't just let people walk in and start nosing around here. This is kind of a dangerous place. I got a fun email, james@wbap.com, from a guy named Donnie, who said they should have cuffed them all and thrown them in gin pop with the rest of the inmates. That's the kind of feedback I'm looking for. All right, Donnie. My next story here, I got this from WFAA, but my criticism isn't for WFAA at all. This is a reporter who's just repeating what she heard from the two people that she interviewed on a very, very touchy subject. I mean, kids. Is there anything that's more near and dear and touchy than kids? And then you want to throw a racial angle in there, and emotions are flying high, and logic leaves the room, and it's exhausting because this isn't what's good for the kids. This isn't what's best for the kids. This may be what's best for your particular nonprofit or your narrative or whatever. But let me introduce you to this. The idea that policemen out there are less concerned about a child missing based on the color of their skin. What an evil, disgusting, ugly slander. Now, I'm not saying there's no such thing as a racist cop out there, but to say that that's the norm, that's the paradigm that the department goes on and everyone's okay with it, and it's not maybe just some rogue actor, but it is the common accepted culture of law enforcement in Dallas. What a huge, ridiculous slander. Anyway, WFAA, here's the first half of the report on kidnapping.
In 2023, the city of Dallas started adding the number of children who were recovered who were deemed to be at a higher risk of being trafficked to its human trafficking dashboard. And since then, of the 258 children who have been recovered, again, only children who have been labeled as high-risk victims, 180 of them had originally been labeled a runaway. That's just at about 70%, with the largest demographic of those children recovered being Black. In fact, in Traffic 911's 15-year history, a majority of the children they've served have either been Black or Hispanic, with the largest group at 41% being Black children, mostly Black girls.
Black and brown girls are consistently labeled runaway in disproportionate numbers. And we've had parents tell us, if my daughter was white, she would have been classified as missing.
And do you agree with that when they say that?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry, cops. I'm sorry that you have to sit here and hear that and be accused of being a racist, being accused of being indifferent toward the suffering of a child just because they have a darker skin tone. I mean, what a huge insult. And how would that fly in Dallas? This is a majority-minority city. We're not talking about all of North Texas. We're talking about Dallas specifically, and the numbers for Dallas and the Dallas Police Department. Dallas is 42% Hispanic, 23% Black. So there's 65% right off the top right there. It's only 28% white. How would we be the dominant culture in the police department? Our mayor's Black. How would we be the ones who can convince the other 65% of the city that this is the way we're going to operate? I mean, it's not even really possible, is it? But what an ugly slander. Why would you say that? You don't look, the whole report is 5 minutes long. Never do they go in there and they explain the numbers or the proportionality. Well, the majority of the missing kids are Black or brown. Well, yeah, they're the majority of the kids in the city. Well, the majority of them are labeled runaways. Well, were they runaways or were they kidnapped? And the distinction here is important in enforcement circles, because if they ran away, then you don't get an Amber Alert. You don't get policemen searching for you. It's a lower priority issue, especially if you're a minor, but you're 17 and you ran away and no one snatched you. No one just grabbed you in Target and threw you in the back of their windowless van and drove off laughing over the horizon. No, that's the situation you're looking at. And they never do go spell back. No, but they actually weren't runaways. They actually were kidnapped. They never tell you that. They throw in race and they're like, that's what it is. That's why they're having more problems in that society. It's white people's fault. It's always somehow comes back to be, I guess, white people's fault for everything. But here's another chunk of that from the other activists. You heard the first one. This one's even worse, about kidnapping in Dallas.
Derica Wilson is a co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, a group that works to help spread awareness and support families of Black people who are missing.
Oh, did you hear that? She has an organization where they show a different level of interest in recovering missing children based solely on the color of their skin. Isn't that exactly what they accuse the Dallas Police Department of? Oh, that's so weird. Because you just said that was a bad thing when you accused the Dallas cops of doing it. Oh, you only show interest in particular missing children if they're of a certain skin tone. Well, let's go ask this lady who only has interest in a certain set of missing children based strictly on their skin tone. And she's the moral arbiter, and she's exhibiting the same behavior you just condemned. Anyway, let's hear from her. Let's give her a fair shot.
Derica Wilson is a co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, a group that works to help spread awareness and support families of Black people who are missing.
They're not seeing our children as children. They're seeing our children as adults.
Both Wilson and Speed believe that systemic racism and implicit bias create a stigma that a Black girl who is missing is likely not in danger and shouldn't trigger an emergency response.
They're a runaway. They're grown. They are doing their own thing. In this world we live in now, we cannot afford to assume anything's okay when a kid goes missing. I don't care where they go or how long they're gone.
The Black and Missing Foundation is well known for creating social media flyers and posting updates on cases.
Law enforcement, put that missing person on your website. That is the bare minimum that the agency can do.
See, and the problem here isn't just that they're slandering cops in a very ugly way and exploiting the racial divisions that stain the American history. They're doing something that isn't actually going to help the problem, which they purport to be trying to solve. Is this going to reduce the number of runaways or children who are trafficked of a darker skin tone? Absolutely not. But they never go to the root cause. They never go to fixing the hole in the boat. They just want to try and bail water out faster, or really give you the bucket and make you bail it out faster. But we talked about this last week on the James Show, and the week before, and a month before that, and pretty much the entire time I've been on. If you want to find out where the runaways are coming from and why they're higher in some communities, look at the out-of-wedlock birth rate. Children that are raised by single mothers are 32 times more likely to run away from home. Is that brought up anywhere in this article? Anywhere in this report by either one of these activists? Absolutely not. Well, because their nonprofit and their paycheck isn't predicated on single motherhood being diminished and reduced as much as possible, even though it would get you a much better result. Does anybody really, I'm not even sure if they really think that. Do they really think cops are so racist that they're indifferent to the suffering of children just because their skin tone's a little bit darker? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. That's a level of evil that's just not even believable. I mean, that's like Jussie Smollett level of lies. Oh, they threw bleach on me. Sure they did. Well, I saw a report, and it's pretty optimistic here. It says there's a renewed interest in manufacturing careers. And look, if we can get the right trade deals worked out and a little bit of deregulation and just a couple of little tweaks here, we are not far off from having a revival in American manufacturing. Coming up next, Parker Shepard is joining us from the Heritage Foundation, American conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. And they also produced the scariest manifesto in American political history called Project 2025. Oh, my God. Parker Shepard, welcome to the James Show.
James, thanks for having me.
So why are young people newly interested in manufacturing careers?
Well, because there's a potential good payday if they can get into the industry. The Wall Street Journal just last week ran an article where they were talking about high schoolers who have $70,000 a year job offers because it is difficult for firms in the industry to be able to find people with the right skills. And yet we've seen the exact opposite narrative get pushed from people in the commentary class. Everybody says that, no, the interest is failing. Nobody wants to go work in factories.
These are jobs Americans don't want to do, kind of that attitude.
Exactly. And that's absolutely not borne out in the polling. There's a poll that went out recently that said, they asked people generally, do you think more people should work in manufacturing in the United States? And they said 80% of people said, yes, the country would be better off if that were the case. And then they asked, would you yourself be better off if you worked in a factory? And only 25% of people said so. And the take was, no, nobody's willing to put their money where their mouth is. They don't want to go work in a factory themselves, but they completely forgot to do the math. If you take 25% of everybody who's working that's outside of manufacturing, that's 37 million people who are interested in moving. And the industry already employs just about 13 million. So it's a huge amount of interest for an industry that people are trying to write off.
Oh, totally agree. Now, explain to me how a guy coming out of high school can have a better set of skills than someone who's gone through 4-6 years of college and packed up six figures of student debt.
Well, you have to look at what the trends in the manufacturing industry. And then, yes, employment has been declining in recent years, but the value of manufacturing output has been relatively constant, which means that the industry is getting more productive. And the key there is that means wages go up because employers are willing to pay the value of what you're able to produce. When you have the right set of skills to be able to walk into an advanced manufacturing facility and be able to use the latest technology, you are more productive, you create more output for your employer to sell, and that translates into higher wages.
So I have a son in high school, and if I wanted to steer him in that direction, what skills would I point him towards, Parker?
Welding is an interest. Robotics, electronics. We're moving into unlocking AI. And what's really interesting is that a lot of people are starting to get concerned about the possibility that AI comes for a lot of knowledge work. You look at people talking about ChatGPT, generative AI. It's doing things that are typically replacing white-collar jobs. It's going to be a lot harder for them to come for certain things that still require people to work with their hands, or you have to be able to manipulate something physically. Or maybe you get really good at programming a robot to be able to do something physically over and over again really quickly. There's a tremendous opportunity for being able to work in manipulating physical things, because for all the shifts in the industry that have moved away from manufacturing towards services, we're not going to get rid of manufacturing. We still need to make things in this country.
Absolutely. All right. Well, all positive stuff. Thank you very much. This is Parker Shepard from the Heritage Foundation. I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, coming up next, we're going to go through some of the other headlines. We talked about the big ones already. I'll review those, but then there's like 6 sub-headlines, which kind of will leave you scratching your head thinking, well, what would Trump actually have to do to get positive coverage for just one day from some of these people who just seem dedicated on running him down every day? Because on a day like today, you just heard the conversation I had with the Heritage Foundation. There's a lot of good news out there. How could you be sour on Trump on a day like today? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. You're listening to News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.